and welcome to this week's Coffee Club. We're back at Bella Vita, the best Italian restaurant in Glasgow, our favourite place in the world.
Guaranteed good cakes again
for another week. Bill, good to see you back. I think it was Roger Hanna last week, wasn't it?
He was looking magnificent.
He was looking very tanned.
Oh, sensational.
You had a good wee break?
I wasn't on a break. I was actually speaking at speaking at a wee mental health conference, which was good. It was very interesting.
Good.
Good.
What going on this week? We've got Rangers playing in a pretty huge Europa League game tomorrow night. Malmo, Andy Devlin's over in Sweden for us, covering the game. We'll get all the best coverage, as usual, from Andy. Shaping up as a pretty big game, I think, Bill, for Rangers.
They're all big just now for Rangers. That's the way it's going for them at the moment.
But they have to, you'd think they'll be looking to make an impression.
Yeah.
Europa League, I think they've got a very, very tough group. It's arguably a Champions League group.
Yeah, pretty much.
Even probably arguably tougher than what Celtic have got in theory. What do you think? Do they get a chance of getting off to a good start, do you think? Or how do you think they'll be approaching it?
Oh, do you know, they're putting in some decent performances just now, they're again against Indy at the weekend, and nice and solid, getting an early goal, getting themselves going, still desperate scoring goals. He's getting a tune out of what he has just now.
Yep.
In certain games. I think it depends on levels with Rangers. Like they go to Parkhead, they weren't good enough. But everybody else are doing fine. You said for a long time on this programme that if Rangers are better than everybody else apart from maybe Celtic, then it keeps them in the game. And that's maybe the game it will be in Europa League. If they can go to places like Malmo and get a result, it's going to make it easier when they come against the bigger clubs. But I tell you what, Malmo's going to be a tough place. They won 4-0 at the weekend. They've got a big support. They've got a very noisy support. It's not going to be an easy place to go. I
was going to say that I've been to Malmo, I've been to that stadium, and it is a lively place.
It's tight,
it's a really good little stadium. It's kind of compact, but kind of a real atmosphere in the place.
Absolutely, and it's a tea time game. They're going to have to come out of the traps and really make this work for them. They went away to Kiev and they struggled and they managed to get the late equaliser. They didn't look particularly convincing on the road that night. They're going to have to be better.
What do we think success for Rangers in the Europa League? They've obviously, there's things going on at Rangers just now. They're maybe coming out in a minute what they're trying to do behind the scenes in terms of the boardroom. But on the pitch, should we be expecting too much from Philip Clement's side? They're going through a bit of transition in terms of the squad. I think it's a big ask from them this season.
Well, they've set the bar high. Previous Rangers sides in the Europa League, they've become a very good Europa League side. They've been to a final, they've beaten some really good teams, home and away. But yeah, I think transition's a good word for it. I think if they get off to a great start tonight, that's all they can ask for. I think one of the things about the new setup of the leagues is you can afford to take games on their merit and in their own context. But yeah, I think 2 or 3 good home results would be really good for confidence at Rangers. Yeah. I'm not entirely sure they can be aiming at where they've been before and looking at later stages. Not just yet.
Celtic got a great result last week against Slovan Bratislava, and it's given them a platform, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think what you just touched on there, if Rangers can get off to a decent start, a good start, even a draw,
especially away from home,
it would give them a real kind of boost, wouldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. You don't want to come back for this on a downer. Look at Celtic last week. There was I think if you looked at it on paper, you thought, Celtic should be beating this team, and then in reality, you think, well, that's been said a lot of times about Celtic in Europe, and yet they went out and they were terrific. And over the 90 minutes, they were terrific. And it's now, as you say, it's now giving them that belief that, this can be done. We can go places and get results.
Yeah.
And Rangers need that feeling tomorrow night. Sorry.
Yeah. I think it's going to be difficult for them. Dessers is playing reasonably well.
Putting the ball in the net.
He's a kind of strange guy to kind of rate, isn't he? Because open play, I still don't think he's the best.
No,
but
one-footed.
Very
one-footed.
But he scores
goals. What else do you want from a centre forward? And put a number 9 the guy's back. You want him to put the ball in the net. Doesn't matter if he's clumsy. Doesn't matter if he's one-footed. Doesn't matter that his touch isn't fantastic. When the ball drops to him, if he can put the ball in the net, and he's done it at, he did it in Europe there, and it wasn't his fault that they didn't go through. And he might just be the guy that the ball bounces off his thigh and goes into the net in Malmo and gets them moving.
Yeah. Is it a big night for Philip Clement? Because
they all are, Robert.
What do you think? Because I don't think there's a huge amount of pressure on Philip Clement, in all honesty. I don't think there's a whole lot of pressure on him at all, because I think there's an acceptance that what he's having to deal with this season is really difficult, and I think it's been.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. However, I'm looking at various online things, and there's a narrative goes around managers, and there's accepted wisdoms, and I don't know where they come from somewhere, but I'm reading in a lot of little places, not by particularly people I would say, oh, they're on the ball, but saying that Philip Clement's maybe one result away from being in trouble. And I just don't believe that at all. But I'm seeing it in a lot of places, and once people start to talk about that, they start to believe it. You know how things these days gather pace. I personally don't think he should be under pressure because he's working with one hand tied behind his back, and I don't think he's doing a bad job.
I think Rangers managers are always going to be judged on results, but I just think there's a real acceptance right now that there's so many obstacles in his way to a certain extent. You know that it's a really difficult job. I haven't read that people have that narrative that he's under.
It's a lot of online stuff, and
you need to watch what you're looking online.
No, it's very true. It's very true. Many people have told me that. But yeah, anyway, I think from a grown-up's point of view, I don't think he should be under pressure. I was going to ask you, you were at the press conference the other day where interim chairman John Gilligan was put up. I don't. From looking at it from the outside, I thought it looked quite a lonely place for him, and I didn't think he looked particularly comfortable to be there. What was your thoughts?
I think that's probably a fair comment. I think John's a really good and honest guy. He actually came into the room before it started and kind of welcomed everyone, and great to see you. He's a kind of down to earth. That's guy,
that's his hospitality background. He's very good at it.
Yeah, I think he's uncomfortable. Possibly, it's clearly not an environment he's familiar with in terms of speaking to the press and being that guy who's front and centre. But I thought what he said was pretty fair enough.
Dave King's got under
our skin, clearly, which I can understand to a certain extent.
He's not helpful.
What do you think of it? Because he's a guy who's got a lot of shares in the club. He's one of the majority, or one of the he is a majority shareholder, isn't he? And he's got a lot to say for himself.
Yeah, not much of it helpful.
John Gilligan was saying that he kind of essentially tell him to shut up.
Aye.
Put words in his mouth. Is that? Can you understand where they're coming from?
I thought John went at it slightly wrong when he asked basically Dave King to stop criticising. Because I think if you're a club the size of Rangers, you've got to be able to take criticism however it comes. But I do think Dave King, whenever there's an issue, whenever something goes wrong, he's straight out there with his big statement on how, if only I was there, things would be a lot better. Well, he's been there, and things weren't a lot better, And he was hunted out of the place, and he now has an agenda that basically says anything that goes wrong. See, if I'd been there, that would never have happened. But it's easy to rewrite history. It's very easy to rewrite history, and everybody knows what happened when Dave King was there. And I really think what he's doing is extremely unhelpful to the guys who are left holding the baby at Rangers.
Yeah, that said, he was part of with John Gilligan, Paul Murray, who got regime change at Rangers, which was crucial at that time.
Yes.
So in fairness to Dave King, he was part of a change there that had to happen. Mm-hmm. Maybe subsequently he didn't change things the way it should have been changed. But he did have a positive impact on Rangers at one point.
He did, but now that he's people fall out. Now he's gone. He just can't let it go. He has to keep. Every time there's an old firm defeat, every time there's a transfer doesn't go right, the Coleman Road thing, the stand, everything. It's well, that's what you get when you get rid of guys like me. And I don't think that helps anybody.
No.
And especially if the man's sitting there as he keeps telling you, the major shareholder, which makes himself sound as if he owns 85% of the club, which he doesn't, obviously. Yeah. I don't think that's going to do much for your share price if you keep talking the place down all the time.
I think Rangers, the thing about it, they need investment. They need money from somewhere.
Yes.
And one of the things John Gilligan was saying, and I think it's a fair point, that Dave King might be coming out with these kind of criticisms of the club, but he's not coming up with any firm proposals. It's going to change things. He's not bringing anyone to the table to say. His
suggestion the other week when John Bennett stepped down was that if you bring me back in for 2 years and I'll work for free, I'll bring Saudis to the table or Americans to the table. But I think if he really cares about Rangers, he should be going to them now. He should be going to John Gilligan now and saying, "Listen, John, we need to stop this nonsense. I know people. Can we bring them in and talk to them? If he cares about Rangers."
So what do you think Dave King's motivation is then?
Bench.
In what sense?
the fact that, you know, you guys get rid of me, I'm going to make your life very difficult. That's what it feels. It feels very playground and childish to me. You know, unless I'm missing some huge underlying.
Well, he lost out financially a little bit, didn't he, as well? So
That's
could it be that he's...
That's football.
Yeah.
You know, people have said that a million times. You know, if you want to make a small fortune out of football, start with a large fortune. You know, so unless, you know, and very, there's very few clubs where people go in and there's not many Fergus McCanns in the world who start with 5 million and end up with 45.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. It will certainly help Rangers if they get a good run in Europa League, and absolutely hope they do. We always talk here, we want our Scottish teams to do well, and it'd be great if Rangers could get a result. And Malmo tomorrow night and kick on from there and get a boost from that, because we generally want to see our teams do well in Scottish in Europe. So we'll see Andy Devlin's over in Sweden for that one, and we'll be keeping an eye on that.
Very wet Malmo,
apparently soaking.
Very wet Malmo.
Pouring down. Hey, look. Glorious here in Glasgow, Andy, if you're
beautiful,
watching
Andy. A lovely time.
Although Malmo is brilliant.
Oh, it's a great city.
Yeah,
we're getting a bit old for Malmo. Robert, we're getting a bit old for Malmo.
True. Although when the draw was made, Andy did very clearly say that he wanted
to go to Malmo.
Andy
gets a chance to go to Malmo. It's a wonderful
place. Great place. What I was going to ask you about next was
Hearts. Hearts is an interesting one. I was sitting on Sunday writing a column for Monday about Steven Naismith's future, and even as I was writing that, I was thinking, I'm half expecting there's going to be a message comes up during this time saying he's gone, because on the Saturday, well, apart from the fact that, you know, any Hearts manager knows when you're under pressure, you go to St Mirren, you're going to lose your job. Daniel Stendhal, last game, St Mirren away, defeated. Robbie Nielsen, last game, home to St Mirren, defeated. Steven Naismith goes, lose to St Mirren.
I think it's even a longer list than that. I read somewhere that it's like there's 4 or 5 managers at Hearts have been pinned after St Mirren.
So now you know when it's going to happen. But you know,
the perception as a St Mirren fan has always been, if you're leading the result, it's
a
place to go.
Except if you're Hearts, that's the thing. That's always been the way I've thought as a St Mirren fan. Is that any striker that's not scoring, come and play us and score 7. However, I felt the way it went on Saturday when the Hearts fans joined in with the St Mirren fans mocking Hearts. You think, "Whoa, this isn't good." And it was an interesting comment in the papers yesterday from Andrew McKinley, the CEO, which I didn't think again was a very clever thing to say, that if it had been a better second half, Steven Naismith might still be in a job. Is that how? Is that what it comes down to?
Yeah.
So if they'd come back and won 3-2, he'd still be in a job. If they'd drawn 2-each, he'd still be in a job. We'd still be the same manager. They'd still have the same problems.
Yeah, I agree with you actually, but at the same time, I can kind of see where he's coming from, because as much as, and I've backed Steven Naismith continuously here and in the paper for the last number of months, because you could almost see this coming.
Absolutely.
We kind of predicted this would happen. If Hearts had a difficult start to the season, then we knew that the pressure was going to become, because that's what happens at big clubs, and it's what the Hearts fans are like. But as much as I have backed Steven Naismith, and I think he is still going to be a good manager somewhere, I wouldn't write him off at this stage by any stretch of the imagination. However, I was at the game on Saturday, and they offered nothing in the second half. They had so much of the ball. I think the stats ended up, they almost had like 70% possession by the end of the game. St Mirren were under no threat. They got themselves ahead. They defended the box, and there was nothing. There was no threat to St Mirren at all. I think if you're a Hearts fan, I think if you're Andrew McKinley or anyone on that board, you're probably watching that and thinking, it's got to be better than this.
Well, and the thing is, the timing of it is, they have a week off, and then it's Ross County at home. Now, if Steven Naismith had taken charge of them against Ross County at home, and they're 0-0 with 20 miles to go, it's going to be toxic. You go straight from there to Azerbaijan to play Dinamo Minsk in the Conference League, and then fly straight back into Aberdeen, not even back to Edinburgh, to play Aberdeen at the Tawdry on the Sunday. Now, Aberdeen go to Dundee this weekend, but they're sitting in a run of whatever it's 12 games, win, all the way from the start of the season. Difficult week for Hearts. They probably looked at it and thought, we can't have Steven Naismith in charge for this week in case it all goes catastrophically wrong. However, can you have your B team manager in charge? Are you downplaying the importance of where you're at if you put your B team manager in charge of that?
Yeah. Somebody actually mentioned this to me as well, and it's a fair point. Had Naismith still been the manager, and had they lost, should they lose to to Ross County,
Uh-huh.
and his position would become
And,
untenable.
absolutely.
You know, they then go to Azerbaijan. You need a visa to go to Azerbaijan.
Absolutely.
You need all sorts of
So
paperwork
that's
to
what I'm
go
saying.
there.
So the timing
You
of
know,
it became very important.
You know, you wonder if that was part of their thinking as well, that they have to get these things in place for potentially that. I'm not saying that's the reason.
For me, Robert, I like Steven Naismith a lot.
Yeah, so they are.
And I agree with you in all you say about him. However, for a first job, it's a massive job. To come straight out of it, okay, he was running the B team for a little while, but to come basically out of the dressing room to become the manager of the club who see themselves as the third best in Scotland is massive. And you saw it right from the start of last season when they went to Europe and they had to do that. He's not the manager. He's the manager because he's not got the right, certificates. And there was this nonsense of Frankie McAvoy being in charge when he really wasn't in charge. We knew Stephen was in charge. And the whole thing has always felt just a little bit wrong. You know what I mean? I think Stephen could have done with a year at Wraith Rovers or Ayr United or somewhere to knock the edges off him and then come back. So I think he will be a very good manager.
Disrespectful.
No, but that's what you do. But that's what you do as a manager.
Should be getting the best manager around.
Yeah, but if you're, if you look down through history, managers start here and they make their mistakes without the massive spotlight on them, and then they go here and then they go there. But to go from in the dressing room with Hearts, basically to managing Hearts, is, I think that's demanded an awful lot of Stephen, and I think maybe it's not the worst time for him now to just put a foot in the ball for 6 months and see what happens, unless he's back in 2 minutes flat. I also think the Hearts board need to have a look at the fact that they gave Stephen and his assistants extended contracts.
Andrew McKinley spoke about this. I read this morning, I'm speaking about this, and he kind of explained it away in the sense that I think Naismith had gone to the board, and I think it was to do with the fact that his backroom guys, their contracts were going to be up within the year. They were maybe a bit
vulnerable,
antsy about it. Yeah, maybe a bit vulnerable is the word. And that was sorted out. It's probably not. In fact, I think you said that it's not caused them any more financial issues. It's not. Doesn't make the payoff any bigger or any kind of heavier on the club.
Yeah.
And it was maybe just something they did. The way it looks, it doesn't look great.
I
mentioned this other day.
The whole
thing's
not good.
When you give somebody a new contract and then within a month or 6 weeks.
But you're absolutely right. The biggest thing with Hearts, I've seen them a few times this season, and a Hearts team, said this McCollum Monday, a Hearts team should be horrible to play against. That's not. I'm not insulting Hearts for that. They are traditionally, the biggest thing about them is they're horrible to play against, and then they play their football once they've won the fight with you, and they haven't done either. They've not won their fights, and they're not looking as if they can score goals. When Lauren Shanklin's not putting the ball in the net, nobody is. They've got guys who I think are good defenders who aren't defending very well. The midfield's not. I mean, so apart from all that, they've been okay, but it's been horrible for Hearts fans because all the things they expect from their team just haven't been there.
Yeah. That said, Hearts had a wonderful season last season.
But that's the season they should have had.
Yeah.
With the squad they have and the money they have.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. We kind of could see this coming to a certain extent. They get into Europe. Their season starts really early with the European games. Mm-hmm. They're under real pressure in those games.
Yep.
It's come sticking fast at them. They've got issues with the squad. So the season starts. They're kind of chasing a little bit. I don't know.
Well, we're talking on here about how really outside Rangers and Celtic, everybody else in Scotland who qualifies for Europe is at a disadvantage with the really early starts. So before the trying, you're trying to make signings at the same time you're trying to put a squad in the park. You're not really getting a proper pre-season. Blah 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 blah. It isn't easy. It's not easy at all. I think Hearts are better prepared than St Mirren or Kilmarnock.
Yeah, without doubt. But I bet you, I would put money on this right now. If you spoke to Stephen Robinson privately, he'd be delighted that St Mirren get knocked out of Europe.
Yep,
absolutely delighted, because had they stayed in Europe, had they got into the Conference League and played Thursday night football in Europe and then played on a Sunday,
it's impossible.
St Mirren don't have the squad to cope with that.
Well, he said
would struggle, and he would be under pressure.
He said that publicly the night St Mirren were knocked out in Bergen. He said, when we look back on this, we're going to see that in terms of infrastructure, squad, finances, we are not ready for this. We'll be more ready next time, but we're not ready this time. And so I think Scottish teams are very much under pressure, especially when you come up against the Northern European teams who have been playing through the summer. So, but Hearts, who comes in next is
well, they're going to get Tony Bloom at Brighton and his analytical firm. What is it, Star Lizard? I think it's called. firm, the House Group, are involved in this, heavily involved in this. I'm led to believe that I know the I's haven't been dotted or the T's haven't been crossed in terms of the deal going through with Tony Bloom, but I'm led to believe that it's virtually all agreed, and it's going to happen. He's going to have an influence on who comes next, and I think that could be a smart move.
Do you know?
What do you think? What do you think of the whole thing?
I don't like to use this word lightly, but Tony Bloom is a genius.
Yeah.
I mean, in all fields of his life, Brighton have run magnificently. His whole life as a professional gambler, money maker, is amazing. He also has in there as one of his mainstays, David Weir.
Yeah.
Big connection with Hearts, who I'm sure has had a say in some of this. Their recruitment, the way they recruit, the way they buy and sell is the model for everybody everywhere. It's what Celtic do times 50.
Yeah.
They're incredible. And I don't think Hearts could have a better man on board to come and help them become a better club.
Yeah. I was actually speaking to Chris Boyd the other day.
You know Chris Boyd?
I know Chris Boyd. I was doing his column, and he's convinced that this is going to be a game changer. Absolutely convinced that this is going to be a game changer for just for Hearts, but potentially for Scottish football. That Tony Bloom, as you say, he doesn't do anything by half measures. No, he's going in there with real intent to try and turn things there.
Yeah, he's incredible. He is absolutely incredible, and what he's done with Brighton is just magnificent.
Yeah, well, we'll keep an eye on that. Our main man in Edinburgh, Robert Martin, is all over that story as usual with Hearts, and we'll be keeping an eye on what's happening there.
St Johnstone.
I was going to talk to you about St Johnstone as well. They're another club looking for a manager after Craig Levein. We touched on it last week. Craig Levein sacked last week, and a number of names flying around.
Yeah.
Scott Brown, one of them.
Again, there's a guy who's started.
It's a bit soon for Scott Brown.
He had his experience down at Fleetwood, which didn't go terrifically well, but then that's a bit of a graveyard of managers. He's doing a nice job at Ayr off the back of the foundations that Lee Bullen laid. They've been a decent side this season so far. Is it too soon? What is too soon? That's, for me, Steven Naismith going straight to Hearts was too soon. Scott Brown, I just think a couple of years' experience, I don't know.
Yeah, I just think he's doing a really good job at Ayr. And I would like to see someone like Scott Brown achieve something
before he moves on.
Yeah,
that is a thing in football.
By the way, for his benefit,
as
much as anyone. If Scott Brown was sitting here right now, no doubt he would tell you he's ready for whatever comes next. Absolutely, because that's the kind of guy he is, and quite rightly so. Yeah. He's got a vast amount of experience as a player, international with Scotland, Champions League, numerous Champions League appearances with Celtic, won trophies coming out his ears at Celtic. So experience as a player, is unrivaled. But I think if a manager can win something early in his career, that sets him up.
And if you look at Ayr, who haven't been in the top division for an entire generation, you go back to.
If they were to get promoted, it would
78,
be fantastic.
Yeah, St Mirren stayed up 78 with Alex Ferguson, United went down. I think that's the last time they won the Premier League. You can do that. I mean, you just become a legend. Whoever goes to St Johnstone, and I hope St Johnstone fans that have watched this would agree with this. Just for once, a manager that gets them excited.
Yeah.
That's got a team playing football that wants to bring people in through the doors. They've been so pragmatic for so long.
Yeah.
And I think it's a club that seems to walk about with a bit of a weight in its shoulders.
Yeah.
You know, and fans need to want to get to games and watch football that they enjoy.
Yeah. I always find it hard because I find St Johnstone a fairly, I hate using this word because it sounds awful, but a fairly soulless club in some ways. And you think of the success that they've had, it's phenomenal.
They've had wonderful owners.
They've had brilliant owners.
The Browns were brilliant.
Fantastic. And wonderful teams, wonderful.
Do you know, I remember, Robert, when...
But I think, sorry, Bill, I just think if you're a player there and the success that club has had in the last 10 years, there should be a better feeling about the club.
I remember when, back to when they moved to McDermott Park. Muirton Park was a great old stadium, but they moved in. The first season was brilliant. It was full every week. They were playing some brilliant football, 89, 90. They were playing some amazing football. I remember a 5-0 win over Aberdeen early on in their first season, and you thought, this is the start of something. I always remember there was a period, they had Alec Totten as manager, and he was talking them up, and it was great. and they get rid of Alec Totten, and then they seem to have gone through a succession of trying. Derek McInnes did well for them for a while, and they've won the 2 cups, obviously, which was great during the COVID times. But there's a feeling, you're right, soulless, and it's a hard word for people at St Johnstone to probably accept. But I get what you mean. You walk into the stadium, sometimes you think,
by the way, that's no criticism of it. It's a weird one because the fans who do go to their games every
are
week,
enthusiastic.
yeah, and they're as diehard as any group of fans. That if you go and watch St Johnstone every week, or you've got a season ticket or whatever, you go and follow St Johnstone.
They're the biggest team in the world.
Yeah, 100%. And kudos to you because and you're as passionate about your team as any Rangers or Celtic or St Mirren fan.
But for instance, I watched St Mirren.
So you can't criticise those fans for the guys who don't go. You go there and you think, could the crowds be bigger? And that's no fault of the St Johnstone fans who do go.
Yeah.
But
if you look, for instance, at our club at St Mirren over the last 2 or 3 years, the engagement between the club and the fans has probably put 12 to 1,500 on home gates.
Yeah.
So we're relying less on the Rangers and Celtic money or whatever, and we're getting huge, almost full houses at our stadium for likes of Kilmarnock and Hearts and Aberdeen coming. And that's what St Johnstone need. They need, instead of having 3,000, they need to have 5,000, 5,500. That really makes it. You saw that game a couple of seasons back against Rangers in the Cup where they basically gave up 3 sides. Yeah. They did a Livingston, and I think fans went, "Wait a minute, what is this our club or is this not our club?"
Yeah.
And I think they need somebody now that brings them back through the turnstiles.
That's what I'm saying. They've had so much success in the last decade that if you wonder if they can't get,
they didn't get to see it.
If you can't get it, that's true.
Isn't that soul destroying for them?
Yeah,
the one time they got it, they weren't able to see it.
But if that doesn't bring guys who don't go to the stadium, what will? But again, you can't criticise
the ones who are there.
Yeah, the ones that almost can't talk about people who they've not got an interest in St Johnstone, they've not got an interest. But it's a very interesting job. I wonder if it'll be interesting to see who they go with or who they target. But Scott Brown's an interesting one that's been mentioned.
Yeah.
I think if you're Scott Brown, you would probably see that as a kind of club that would be a next stepping stone for you.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I would like to think if you're Scott Brown,
stay and win the league with them.
Maybe stay win the league with them. Maybe you get better options.
Do you think John McGlynn would think about leaving Falkirk?
Yeah, probably wouldn't. I think John McGlynn's an unbelievable manager.
I think John McGlynn could be in the Premiership next season with Falkirk.
Absolutely.
That's a hell of a team he's got there.
You're talking about Hearts. I mean, I know he's got a connection with Hearts. I think they could do a lot worse than getting John McGlynn.
He's been there and they've emptied him.
His teams play fantastic football. Right. He's really well organised. I know Brendan Rodgers, spoke about him the other day.
You were going to use the words blue and smoke, weren't you?
He spoke about him the other day. No, but I think he's coming probably from a sincere place because he knows John McGlynn.
Does. He had him in the staff there before. Yeah. John McGlynn is one of the most detailed managers you'll ever meet. The football his team play is terrific. He's picked players up from all sorts of different areas.
Why does something like that then not get? Why is that not an obvious one for Hearts or even St Johnstone?
Look, you look at John McGlynn, you listen to John McGlynn. He's a wee guy, he's an ordinary wee guy, he's a working man. He doesn't have...
That's what I'm saying.
He doesn't
why not?
He doesn't have the look, the suit, the teeth, the tracksuit, the hoodies and stuff. He turns up, he's got his hand in a corner, he does his stuff, and he goes... And he'll come out after the game. This season, they put Hearts out of the Cup, in the League Cup. They were absolutely brilliant. I spoke to him after the game, and he came in, yeah, I'm pleased, it was really good, and the boys, and he talks about tactics and stuff, and you go away thinking, that's a really nice man, and people go, he's a bit dull. And I don't think he's dull, I think he's fascinating. But do you know what I mean by that these days image and
I think it's like society these days.
How do you sell yourself?
He's at a certain age, and you know what I mean, and he's not the bright new shiny thing, but the job he does. I hope Falkirk do well this season because I love the way they play.
I hope he doesn't leave there. Same with Scott Brown at United. I would love to see him stay there and take them back into the Premiership. Yeah. Him and Paul Smith as a team are absolute, and don't leave Paul Smith out of this.
Yeah.
Outstanding management team.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with that one. Interesting times for those clubs. You were wanting to talk about something else. What was it? Referees.
What
was been bugging you about referees this week? Well, you're easily bugged, aren't you? You're at a certain age.
I've been listening since about 17, I've built a career on it.
60 years ago.
Absolutely. So, yeah, as you know, I championed Willie Collum as head of the referees. I think he's doing a fantastic job. I still think...
You always champion Willie Collum.
Not as a referee, but I championed him as the man to run because I think he's the best guy to run Scottish referees.
Division-
He and I have had
Divisionism here. You
no,
really call him.
He and I have had words down the years over my interpretation of his performances on the park. However, I said right from when we were looking for a new head of referees, I said Willie Collum was the only horse in the race, and he's got it, and I think he's doing a very good job. There's certain things that I still find a bit. I think the transparency is fantastic, but when you bring in transparency, you open yourself up to more criticism.
Scrutiny,
And you know the Derek McInnes thing this week. There's absolutely no doubt Sean Rooney should have been set off for kicking Kyle Vassell when he's on the deck. There's no doubt in my mind about that. Now Matthew McDermott, who bless him, has had a stinking season so far.
Brendan Rodgers,
Bless him, has had a good lad. He's had an absolute stinking season so far. It's just not. It's not happening for him. He actually probably needs taken out of the equation for a wee while and put on a course somewhere to sort him out.
I think that's going to happen.
And but for him not to see that, for Andrew Dallas then not to refer it both. So Willie Collins dealt with it. Derek McInnes has phoned him. Willie Collins talks about it. My frustration is that Willie Collins can't be constantly on a Monday having to tell managers why decisions were wrong. Decisions have to be right at the time. And if the man in the park for some reason doesn't see it, VAR has got to be better. It's got to be better. I think what we're seeing this season are fewer spurious VAR interruptions in games. We're seeing quicker VAR decisions, but we cannot have a guy like Andrew Dallas sitting there and not seeing that Sean Rooney has taken 2 kicks at a player when he's lying on the deck.
Yeah.
And I think, and then we bring in this new incident review panel, which a week later says, by the way, right enough, that should have happened. And if I'm Derek McInnes, I'm saying, I don't need to hear this. I don't need to hear a week later what I already know.
Yeah, but I agree with you and Derek McInnes. I see where you're both coming from. But if you really call him, you're trying to engage with
and
managers.
I think it's 100% right in doing so.
I don't think you can criticise him in any way,
I
shape
am
or
not
form.
criticising
I don't mean you,
no.
but this idea that we're fed up hearing him, or I mean, the fact that there's only so much that Willie Collum can do
the more
on a Monday morning.
Yeah.
But I think what he has to be saying to referees is, I can only defend you to a certain extent. And I think that's what he has said. He spoke last week. He was talking last week. Sorry, Willie, and he spoke really well about that. He's like, it's only so much. Only so many times he can defend referees and explain their decisions. And if they're not learning, then these guys, whether it's McDermott or others, who will get pulled out.
Well, if you take the example of Matthew McDermott, he tried to put a wee marker down for Matthew McDermott after the thing that happened with the Rangers St Johnstone game where he had the whistle and the free kick. Was it a free kick? No, St Johnstone stopped, blah, blah, blah. Willie came out and publicly named him and said his body language wasn't very good.
Yeah.
And I'm sure he said more to him himself.
Yeah.
So you think Matthew McDermott would go, right, okay, take a big deep breath, go again, think clearer, get myself in. And then he does something like that in the where he freezes in the St Kilmarnock game. And
but that's the one in Kilmarnock game. He was a referee.
Yeah.
Right. That's a VAR issue. That's whoever's watching the TV replays. If you're the wrong side of that incident happening,
if you're the wrong,
this was now she's either a fourth official, a linesman. I've got a certain degree of sympathy.
He's on the same side of the park as it.
Right, okay, he should maybe see it, but the point is,
but you're right,
it's a failing in the system.
Yeah.
And VAR, who's got time to look at the video, you take 2 seconds to see it, and you realise,
and doesn't even refer it back.
So that's where VAR should be helping Matthew
Yeah.
McDermott, and that's where the system has let him down wrong.
Absolutely.
Let him down and let Willie Collum down, who's then having to explain it. Is Andrew Dallas who is the fourth, who's the VAR that day? He's the one who should be saying, he's up.
That's what I'm saying.
I've made a mistake.
However, what I do think is there's a possibility in that case with Matthew McDermott that he's maybe frozen and decided not to make a decision because he's not sure, doesn't want to get himself in any more bother. Yeah. And you're right, that's where Andrew Dallas should step in and help him. However, as we say, Willie can't keep going on a Monday morning and phoning around managers and saying, by the way, you're right enough, we get that one wrong. Because eventually he's going to have to then go to his guys and say, and he's only got so many guys he can rely on to get out there on a Saturday. He's not got an endless, he's not got a transfer window of bringing in more referees. Referees are going to have to step their game up.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt about that. I think from what I've been hearing from Willie Collum in the interviews he's been doing, I think he's going to be pretty hard on the guys, and I think rightly so. I think what he's not going to do is publicly cane them, which is as much as we might like the idea of that.
It's not going to
happen. It's not going to happen, and rightly so.
As managers don't.
Exactly, 100%. So
you do it to me, but
yeah, that's because you continually fail to impress. well, but if he's going to pull guys in and out, or maybe give them a few weeks off, or maybe put them into the championship or whatever, do it discreetly, do it quietly.
There's my bugbear.
Yeah, I know, but you'll then say, well, why should a poor referee go to the championship? Yeah. But you can't just bin them all together.
No,
you put them into a lower profile game. You're talking about
what
managers.
You can take them out for 2 weeks and say, we're going to work with you for 2 weeks. You take a player out of the team for 2 weeks.
You put, so next game you put them back into. What's the next game you put them back into?
Well, whatever the game is, whatever level he's down to.
Yeah, so you probably put him in a low profile game to try and build him back up.
What I'm saying,
the same way as a player was injured.
What I've always disagreed with, and this was back many years in Scottish football, is a guy has a stinker in an Old Firm game, so next week he goes to Albion Rovers. And I think that's wrong, because Albion Rovers deserve as good a referee as they can get. And if the guy's out of form, he needs to be taken out and he needs to be given a bit of training.
If Albion Rovers are getting a referee who was good enough to referee the Old Firm game, they're doing well.
Yeah,
even though he might be
playing badly,
even though he might be having a tough time, maybe though his confidence is down, generally the referees at Albion Rovers will be nowhere near that standard.
But I don't think referees are any different from players. I think if a player's out of form, you take him out of the team, you get him into training, you work on what his failings are. I think Wally should be taking guys like, and Matthew, you watch this. This isn't all about you, but I would be taking a guy who's made a couple of mistakes out. I'd be making him watch the mistakes. I'd be working on him, and then I'd be putting him back into where he's meant to be. There you go.
Sure, end of rant. Well, I agree to disagree on that one. I think, yeah, you've heard what I think, etc. Cakes wise, what have we got?
Oh, little chocolate eclairs.
You've already
I've had a wee bite. I'm going to have another bite in a minute. A couple of cannolis. Cannolis are one of my favourite things. Beautiful little cream chocolate Italiano things. We have just everything. And I think they're all going home to your house today, Robert, because you're working from home, aren't you?
Working from home today, so they're not going back to the office. Phil and the guys there, I'm sorry, but my kids are going to be tucking into these very shortly. That's us from Coffee Cub this week. We wish Rangers well. Yes. Malmo tomorrow night. Hopefully they get off to a great start in Europa League. And that's us. We'll catch you next week.